Hello everybody, this is the cold case murder of Evian Rauter, also known as the Portbou girl. First disclaimer, in this video I'm going to talk to you only the truth that is implied by the evidences and not some mainstream media fairy tale. So if you are interested in some fabrications of any kind, if you're offended by truth, please switch off from the video, don't watch it. I'm going to start mentioning the painter, the lady painter of Portbou. She was born in Portbou. That is Ángeles Santos Torroella. Ángeles Santos Torroella, she was born in Portbou in 1911. And she lived there in the childhood. Her father was a custom official of the Spanish government. As Portbou is on the border, he was there working as official, married a local girl from Portbou, and her father of that lady, of the mother of painter Ángeles Santos. So her maternal grandfather was Rafael Torroella, who was in period of 20 years, most of that year he was mayor of Portbou. He was a local businessman who moved to Portbou. He was a Freemason. He was one of the prominent Freemasons of the Masonic Lodge of Portbou, which was called Progress Portbouense, the Progress of Portbou, which was like the biggest lodge on this part of Catalonia. And he was a mayor. He was also a successful businessman because he opened his own business with the customs. He had a customs agency. So he was a wealthy, well-connected person, being a mayor of Portbou. And I believe through his influence, Ángeles Santos, his granddaughter, would have insight into some things in Portbou, which probably most people of Portbou don't know. And she painted she became famous as a surrealist painter. So when she was 17, she painted 3 by 3 meters, a big surreal paintings that was like she painted that in 1928, and painting was a world-class success, that was very popular, and it's now held in Madrid in the big museum. That painting is called The World, El Mundo, El Mon in Catalan. In these paintings, if you look at that painting, you can see everything that is connected with the murder of Evian Rauter. I mean, you see the details, visual of why Evian Rauter was hanged in that position. You can see the stairs, the sun there, all the things that are connected with, the hill where Rauter was found. near the cemetery, on that slope, on that pine tree. Underneath that pine tree, underneath the pine tree, underneath that hill, inside of that hill is the passage grave. It's a megalith. It's an old grave from Neolithic. It's oriented toward west, toward the sunset, because this is like it was some kind of religious belief of that primitive people of Neolith. They would build these graves facing different part of rising sun or setting sun and things like that. I'm not going to go into the detail. I explained it in other videos. So in that painting of Ángel Santos, Torroella, you can see details there. On one part of the photo of that painting is there's some tree, there is a scared girl with crossed arms looking like that, and there's a big green snake going up the tree. There are all kind of details, there's a graveyard as a part of the paintings, when they are like three persons are digging the grave and they are putting the girl into the grave. There's some kind of like an angel dressed in white with long hair taking the girl up, and all kinds of strange things there. Even like the positioning of like the sun, and then where this tree is and where the girl is on that painting is like the diagonal. It's like watching like there's a church there on that diagonal line is just when you go to Portbou and you're watching the sunset. When you watch the sunset, if you're facing the sunset, the sun is going behind the hills in the west, between the mountains, and there's a church of Portbou there. Then you have under like this tunnel, but the sunset of course go up over the tunnel and through this street. There's no buildings like being an obstacle to that sunlight hitting directly that pine tree, that hill there. And you have the cemetery of Portbou on the top of the hill, on the other side of the hill, but there is like this chapel there, and so the cemetery and the church there on this east-west direction. The same is in Cerbere. If you go on the French side, the first town there, built about the same time, you can find that they have the cemetery and the church where the sun setting, it's hitting the sunlight of the sunset is just passing by this church in Cerbere, and going to that on the same direction is the cemetery of Cerbere. And there is also a slope where is some strange stones there. There's like a big pine tree. There are like white vans, white cars parked there. You can check that on the Google Earth. You can check that on some photos there. The same like in Portbou, you can see these white vans that are like always parked somewhere beneath the pine tree on that street, Pujada de Mirador, or two of them parked there, and the pine tree is the middle, like. The architecture of Portbou is built around this central theme of that Neolithic megalith, and the graveyard, the church, and the streets are built around that. This is the central thing in Portbou. It's transgenerational. That's why the Angeles Santos painted that thing in 1928. That was 62 years before the murder of Eviana Rauter. Now, if you look the passage, the monument, W.Benjamin, it has the stairs down, and it's actually symbolic representation of that passage grave. That's a type of this megalith, Neolithic grave, that's in that hill. And when you go up the stairs, if you go into the passage, into these stairs of the W.Benjamin monument, when you go up from the stairs, you are facing directly the pine tree. The passage monument is directly, exactly pointing at the pine tree from that direction. And it was, inauguration of building of that monument of W.Benjamin was about 3 weeks later, after the murder of Eviana Rauter. There were representatives of course, Portbou, of Catalonia, of Spain, and France, and Germany, and a Jewish community. It was like international event. You can check that out in the press. You can you can find that all that thing that I'm talking about. You can check that. You can watch the see it on the Google application, the Portbou and the Cerbere, the French town there on the other side of the frontier nearby. You can check out the painting of Angeles Santos Torroella, the world, El Mundo, and I recommend that you go to this gigapixel website site where you can see that in a great detail. Of course, I recommend also that you check out the old postcards of Portbou, which are where you can see that hill where the cemetery is, and just you can check these strange statues and rocks surrounded that place where the pine trees. The pine tree was planted there somewhere in the early 70s, in the 1969 or 68, 69, I think. They have built this building, the big building that's nearby the pine tree, on the street of Pujada de Mirador, and somewhere around that time they have planted the pine tree there. There were like 2 pine trees planted there, but only the one where Evi Rauter was found grew into that monumental tree. I think that the role of the other pine tree, the smaller pine tree there, was to be like some kind of reserve. If something happens to that big pine tree, that they can grow the other one. That's my kind of idea. So all these are facts, strangely coinciding. How is possible that, Angeles Santos, the painter from Portbou, she painted other paintings that can be referred to that ritual of Portbou, the ritual of sacrificing a girl. You have the painting, it's called The Dead Girl, La Niña Muerta, where you have the girl lying there, dressed in white, with kind of blondish hair, and she's dead. She's like lying down. There are like three girls above her, and then in the right corner, in the background, you have the lady with kind of demonic face, with red hair, dressed in white, standing in the entrance of some kind of house, and nearby is like a big tree with like the white pigeon or white bird flying there, and the bird is on the trunk of the tree. You have also the painting of Angela Santos. It's called La Terra, or like the planet Earth is the name, where you have people praying to the sun, and you have the motive of a lady dressed in red dress holding a girl, and this motive is like repeated of the same red lady in the painting, which in she has like some evil expression, holding the girl who look frightened, and there is a man also there, and you have a motive when she's standing there, there's a dead girl like this. Now on the painting of the main painting, The World of Angela Santos, you have the stairs where you have these figures like in the same figure but in a sequence way, going down, taking the light from up and taking down the stairs. Where is this underworld? Where is this ladies with no hair, like bald ladies, bald like me, holding dead girls or playing some instrument. And this is symbolism of the dead people that are buried in that megalith, in that passage grave in Portbou. This Angela Santos knew about some tradition of Portbou, knew about this history of Portbou. She must have known that. So the source where she could get that is being in that environment. Her grandfather is like the elite of Portbou. He knows everybody of Portbou. He was so many years the mayor of Portbou. He was one of the main people of the Masonic Lodge there, and you know. And then she painted that surrealism painting. Of course, when she talked about these paintings, she talked that one part of that painting is like Portbou, the other are other cities that she lived when she moved out of Portbou in her adolescent years, because her father, this official of Spanish government, he was like every few years moving to different cities because of his job. But the painting is all about Portbou. There was a publication like a year ago where it said Capvestrea Portbou, which means that's a Catalan for like sunset in Portbou, where the motive is like this position with the sun, the same like however Rauter was found in that strange position with the face up on that pine tree. How can that be just some coincidence? All that coincidence, but are exactly laying into the perfect mosaic of that thing. Nobody of the mainstream media is mentioning that on the 4th of September, a Rauter was found hanged on that pine tree. On the 26th of September, 22 days later, there was like this inauguration of the building of the monument of W.Benjamin of international importance with these representatives there, and it's just 40-50 meters away from that pine tree. And when the monument was finalized, built in 1994, it's pointing directly at that pine tree. And the stairs and that thing, you can see that in that painting of Angeles Santos. And the Angeles Santos, she was painting all that surrealism, dark themes in her paintings until 2 or 3 years later, she ended up in a sanitarium, some psychiatric institution, because supposedly she started to wander in the streets of the city. She was at the time in the night, and she was kind of mentally unstable, so her father put her in the sanitarium. And when she got out of that sanitarium, she never again painted. I mean, she died, she was 102 years old, something like this. She lived to be 100. And later on, she never painted nothing surrealistic. When she got out of that sanitarium, she just painted some panoramic nature and stuff like this. It's a very strange story, you know. It's so they have in Portbou some kind of narrative, some kind of story, belief of a ritual of sacrificing a girl. There's a dead girl. There's a dead girl near the tree. There's a green snake. There is these demonic figures. There is this lady holding the girl. All that stuff. And it was painted 60 years before every Rauter was murdered. And you just have to look carefully at the architecture, the urban planning of Portbou. It's, you know, the town's council, this big building is just built so that in the background is that hill. It's near that hill, but it's not blocking the sunlight shining directly on that hill. And you also have the mirador, you know, the famous mirador where the Austrian campers set up their tent. You go at the end of that mirador and you are directly, you can watch the sunlight falling down. There's a church of Santa Maria there, you know, just aside. And when you turn around, you watch directly at that pine tree and the chapel in the background. It's just so convenient. It's just such a coincidence. Well, nothing more to say. If you doubt what I'm telling you, be free to check that thing out. check all that thing that I said to you. And the mainstream media, they're just basing their stories on what the local people of this Altenport, of this small region, people in the vicinity of Portbou, have fabricated. Or you can also watch, there is this website that published the photos of Rauter, colored photos from the autopsy when she was in the cemetery Figueras, and Mr. Lacassi, the forensic, was there, and you can see things in her hair, all kinds of strange things that he should have seen, but he overlooked that. And cemetery officials who lied that she is in that mass grave transferred from that niche where she was supposed to be, and she's not there because they have robbed her body much before year 2001. Probably transferred her body into that passage grave that's in that hill. Thank you for watching this video. If you care about the truth and about justice for every Rauter, please share that. See you in the next video.